Not. So, Sloop, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Sloop Dupe, or Wes is my actual name. I guess I should throw that out there. But yeah, I do Flesh and Blood YouTube. Been doing it for about 5 years now. Much smaller niche than Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'm just happy to be here. I think this is going to be really fun to see if you can parse through some of these very complicated cards.
Yeah, and again, you want to talk about the Silver Age coming out for Flesh and Blood? Because I know this is really big for the game.
Yeah, so the Silver Age format is, and I think actually, interestingly enough, it'll appeal to Yu-Gi-Oh players because it's a faster format than the main classic constructed format. It uses young heroes, so lower life, but it's all commons and rares. And because of the lower life, it actually balances the power level out, so it's like a full powered format, but it's dirt cheap, and they're coming out with new precons in just a couple weeks from now, actually, with the new set, and it's going to be, you know, the launch of the format. And honestly, I think it's a really exciting time for the game because it's fun, easy to get into, and yeah, I don't know, I'm really enjoying it personally. I've been playing it a lot.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at some cards. I've been doing this for years, so it's fun when I always am in the hot seat having to figure it out. So go ahead and show me the first card. What are we going to take a look at here?
All right, well, we're gonna do a very complicated one.
Oh, great, thanks.
It's an effect. It's an effect that if you need to, you make sure you read it out and explain the whole power of the card. So here you go.
All right, so we got Cash In. This says you may destroy 4 coppers, 2 silvers, or 1 gold you control rather than pay Cash In's cost. It says draw 2 cards and go again. So go ahead and give us the rundown here of the card anatomy for those who might be unfamiliar.
All right, so I guess I'll start. So bottom right is your block value, and that is how much if your opponent's attacking you can block for. Bottom left, which is empty here, would be your attack power. So this is obviously just an action, so it doesn't have attack. Top right is your cost, so this costs 4 normally, and your left as well as the strip in the middle, the yellow strip is your pitch. So when you're paying for resources, in this game you draw up to hands of usually 4. It's your intellect for the hero.
Definitely playing scissor hands.
Intellect and 1/5. Usually it's 4. So you draw your hand, and then every card has multiple uses, and you have to figure out which ones to pitch, which ones to play, block with. So that's kind of what the pitch system uses.
So hypothetically, if I were to pitch 2 other copies of Cash In, I could then have the 4 required to pay the cost for the 3rd copy of Cash In.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and so then we may destroy 4 coppers, 2 silvers, or 1 gold. What are these cards?
So these are tokens. They're coins that certain cards or heroes can make. You could probably imagine that coppers are typically easier to make than silvers and then gold, but they're also different classes. So warriors can make coppers and some gold, and assassins are typically the ones that make silvers. So yeah, I guess you kind of have to parse out how easy is it to make the coins to play this pot of greed, really.
I was about to say, this is just pot of greed, right? With a different artwork. And then we have Go Again. So how does that work?
So in this game, much like you're summoning in Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can normal summon once, you have 1 action point in Flesh and Blood. Any action that you do will use up that action point, and if it doesn't have Go Again, your turn just ends.
Interesting. Okay, so your turn just straight up ends. You don't even get like the option. It's just like, all right, your opponent goes. Okay, cool. So I have to figure out if this Pot of Greed clone is worth it in Flesh and Blood. This is going to be interesting because across multiple various games, we know that drawing cards can be either really difficult, like it is in our game, or it can be very easy, like it is in several other games. And so it's always a classic to start off with Pot of Greed. Any other insight you want to provide here while I'm evaluating?
I guess the only thing to say is I think it's pretty obvious that you would never really want to pay its cost.
Of course.
There have been decks that, like, if you do draw it and you don't have the coin, then you might play it for certain decks, but it is going to be all about, do you think it's easy? Because obviously with Go Again, your turn doesn't end, you get to continue, so you got to decipher whether drawing 2 cards in this game is really worth it, especially when you draw up at the end of your turn, and how easy or hard it is to make coin.
Sure. And you said that you draw up to a certain hand size per turn, right? So like at the beginning of your turn or end of your turn, you'll draw up to like 4 or 5 or something along those lines.
You draw up to usually you drop to 4. That's like 99% of the heroes.
Gotcha.
And it's at the end of your turn.
Okay, so based on that, and based off the fact that the cards are also the resource system, right? Because you're pitching those to be able to pay for the cost of other things. If you already have a copper or a silver or a gold or multiple, depending on the cost here, if you have one of those and you can just trade that in to get 2 more cards, which not only gives you more cards to play in a turn, but it also gives you more resources, and also it has Go Again, making you be able to play those cards. I'm going to say that this card's actually pretty good. That's going to be my take on here. And I can't wait to be wrong, so go ahead and be brutal.
So this card is banned in everything but Living Legend.
Whoa, is it really?
Yes, so
okay,
yes, so
I'm curious to hear about this.
Originally, when this came out in the third set, there was like a couple cards that can make copper.
Okay.
And it was just for warrior. It wasn't like not many heroes could really do it. And over the years, there was a couple decks that might play it. They did create a headpiece that let you have start with the gold, but then you don't get any block or any other ability. So there was like one deck that would use it, but it kind of was just an okay card for the longest time. Then last year they came out with a set called High Seas, and it had pirate heroes, and they got like a bajillion cards to make gold, and so they had to ban this preemptively because they're like,
wow,
well, if these heroes can just spit out gold every turn, then obviously a pot of greed for those heroes is going to be a little broken.
Sure, and there's nothing saying that, as far as I'm understanding, you could go hypothetically if you had the resources, cash in into cash in into cash in, right?
Yep. Oh,
that's crazy. What's the card limit? Is it 3 per deck, 4 per deck?
3 per deck.
3 per deck. Okay, cool.
Oh, I was going to say, there's a hero called Gravy Bones, who's a pirate necromancer, and it's not uncommon for that deck to have 5 or 6 gold, and you can gold also, so I should have mentioned, coins themselves, gold lets you pitch 2 and draw a card, go again, so if you pitch a blue, which pitches for 3, you'll float a resource, and you'll get to draw a card.
Okay.
But he's got turns where his deck is full of blues, and he just sits there pitching and drawing through his deck to get the right piece to then, like, play out big plays, and some of those cards had to get banned, so yeah,
okay.
Cash In is started out as an whatever card, ended up being an incredibly broken card. Well, as you can
following the trajectory of Pot of Greed, right? It was good in Yu-Gi-Oh, and then it's been banned for 20 years. So here we are. All right, we got one down. Let's see what else you got.
All right, Ravenous Rabble.
Ravenous Rabble. Okay, so this pitches for 1 resource because it's red. I believe it's red, yellow, blue, right? It's 1. Red is 1, yellow's 2, blue is 3. This costs 0, conveniently. This has 5 attack and 2 block, because it is an attack action here. This says, reveal the top card of your deck. Ravenous Rabble gets minus attack value, where X is the pitch value of the card revealed this way. I wasn't sure if you had any insight or anything you wanted to...
Oh, sorry. It also has go again. That's important.
Oh, sorry. And it also has go again.
Yeah. So this card is obviously pretty interesting for you. So I guess do you think that the ability is too weak or like not much of a downside?
Well, it is essentially free to play because it costs 0, so that's nice. But you can use this as like an attack as well. So like, how does that work in terms of like, do you pick to use it for its effect, or do you pick to like use it as an attack, or how does that work for people who are unfamiliar?
So when you play an attack, it's kind of similar to just like you put your monster out, so you send your attack down, and your opponent then has the chance to block it. So this is just like when you play it, its ability triggers while you attack, so it's only usable as an attack.
Okay, sure. So you're attacking. When you attack, the trigger's there to reveal the top card, and then it gets minus attack power based off whatever it is. It's interesting. So it gets minus power based off the pitch. You don't get the card to your hand, though, right? It's just you're just revealing the top card. So it's technically negative card advantage. You do get to go again. There could be ways to synergize with stuff that's on the top of the deck, like once you know what it is. Obviously, if you pair this with like the previous card, if you're able to draw, then like obviously then you know what you're going to get. This one's tough because I'm really trying to see the value in knowing what the top card of your deck is for the purposes of this, because it's like instinctually I want to say that this isn't particularly good, but I can't wait for you to be like, oh, actually this card's banned in every format too, because it's insane, which is probably what's going to happen.
Never
know. Why what's the catch? What's the gotcha?
That's what you got to figure out.
And it sucks too because like Yu-Gi-Oh cards too, so like you're just like you know that like how a Yu-Gi-Oh player can think. So now it's like we're already in the mind games. I want to say that this card was actually good, and I don't know why, but I want to be right. But I think out of principle I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say that this card is not good.
All right. So this card is actually what is called a red line staple.
Okay.
So in this game, you'll notice that both these cards block 2. The average card blocks 3. So Ravenous Rabble, if you play it in a deck that is heavy on reds, when you attack with it, you're pretty likely for it to swing as a 0 for 4. And in this game, 0 for 4 on your attacks is the best rate that you can get. Not only because you are, like, that's an okay amount of damage to send. It has go against. You send more attacks after. But when most cards block 3, it presents what is called a break point. So if your attack is 4, well, they have to give you 2 cards if they want to stop, the attack fully. So if they're low on life, or if you have an extra ability that says when you hit, there's cards that, like, when you hit, you draw a card. So, and now there are some decks that run it with, an okay amount of blues, and it really sucks when you flip a blue because then it's only swinging for 2. But in those red line decks, this is actually like one of the most powerful staples that you can have at common.
Got it. So it's very much like an aggro card in the sense that it's not really necessarily about the ability is important, don't get me wrong, but it's more so the fact that it's a 0 for 5 that might come down to 4, because if you're playing a bunch of reds that only have a pitch of 1, then that means it's going to be 0 for 4, and then you could obviously like chain multiple of those together as well. Is that my understanding?
Yep. And so you just do all these go again attacks. You're presenting, and you're trying to like poke damage through, send a good amount of numbers, send more damage than your opponent is able to block with their 4 cards. That's usually really important too. So,
Got it. So revealing the top card of the deck isn't like particularly important. It's more so just part of the effect. It's like there's not really much you're doing with the fact you're revealing off the top, right?
Yeah, it just weakens itself. There's only one card, and you can only run one copy of it. It is a card called Gorgonian Tome. It is a colorless card, so it doesn't have any pitch, but if you reveal it, Rabble swings for 5. It doesn't get the minus. But that card just lets you draw another card. So it's a decent card, but it's not really run, because in this game, because you're drawing up to 4, being able to draw another card, aside from a couple heroes, it's not the most relevant. Drawing 2 is good, but replacing a card, kind of whatever.
Sure. Okay, well, I was going to get one wrong eventually, so I'm glad we got it out of the way now. So what do you got for us next?
All right, so with that one done, here we go. So I've ordered these in a way to hopefully kind of step-by-step kind of explain Fab a little bit. So now that we've got the 0 for 4 attack on the way, now I get to explain defense reaction. So I'll let you read this first.
Sure. So this is called Sink Below. It's a red, so pitches for 1, has a cost of 0. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck if you do draw a card. And notably, you said this is a defense reaction that has a defense value of 4. So go ahead and elaborate for us.
Okay, so in this game, the steps of combat go, you send your attack, your opponent then gets to play their normal cards, so things like Ravenous Rabble and Cash In, as blocks. After that, it goes to the reaction step. So it's almost like instant speed stuff, where your opponent, if they have an attack reaction, they get to pump their attack, and you can't now use your normal block cards because you've already passed that step. So that's where defense reactions can go in to add that extra damage.
So it's almost like the damage step in Yu-Gi-Oh! Then, in a way, where it's like where you have the battle step where you can activate like your battle traps and stuff, and then when you get to reactions specifically, that's like when you're in like the damage phase, and you can only activate those types of cards like within that window. Am I understanding that right? Okay, cool. So this is like you said, I mean, compared to the previous card, I mean, this is a way to essentially fully mitigate that damage, essentially. And then on top of it, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom and just to draw. That is optional, interestingly enough. So at the very least, you can just play this as a 0 for 4, but then also just get the cycle. It doesn't have... So how does this work? This doesn't have go again. So does that mean this is your only defense reaction you're allowed to play if that's the case?
Only actions will use up your action point. So because this is a reaction, you can use this if you have 5 or 4 D reacts, maybe 1 in your arsenal. That's something else I didn't explain. That's my bad. This will add into it. In Flesh and Blood, if you have an extra card at the end of your turn, you have an arsenal slot, so you can put a card face down in it. So if you put like an attack there, you can attack with it. You can't block with it, but you can attack. Defense reactions, on the other hand, if you put Sink Below into your arsenal, on your opponent's turn when they attack, you can play it out of your arsenal as a defensive card, and you can use it there. So it doesn't use up your action point or anything. You can play as many of these in your hand as you want on a turn, as long as your opponent's attacking.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's cool, like, one of the things I liked about Flesh and Blood is that there are these, like, weird analogs to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, the fact that you can just, like, play a card face down, not a lot of games let you really do that. And so, that opportunity to be like, haha, gotcha, But Sink Below, I mean, instinctually, I want to say that if, Ravenous Rabble is this sort of, like, powerhouse red card, I mean, Sink Below naturally seems like it would be, like, the counter to that, not to mention you just get to, like, fix your hand a little bit as well. So, like, I want to say this is good? Question mark, final answer?
That's your final answer?
Yeah, I don't like that you asked me that.
No, this card has been a staple of the game, one of the biggest staples since its release. It is banned in Silver Age, actually.
Oh, is it really?
Because it's so good.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know how I explained the breakpoints, how there's like 4 as a breakpoint? This cleanly
Wait,
blocks
they can't
it.
access their level 4 now.
They realized that making a 0-cost defense reaction that blocks 4 and is generic is just, it's one of the best defense reactions you can run. Because it stops those breakpoints. If they use an attack reaction for +3, let's say they attack you for 4, you can block with a card for 3. When they try to pump their attack to 7, this comes in and saves you for the full 7. So that's really important. Like, math in this game is very, very important because there's not as many like counters to what your opponent's doing.
That is depressing to look at.
And,
wow.
This card, especially with the filter, like playing it from your arsenal and, oh, you have a hand of all reds, you need a blue. Well, you can tuck one and try and get that blue. My favorite is when you draw 2 sink belows, you block with one, put the other at the bottom, and you draw the third. That's my favorite. Because there are times you'll put a card down, draw the exact same card.
Of course.
So, it happens. But no, this card is very, very, very powerful.
Okay, yeah, it seems like it. Especially like you said, you're trying to build me like some context here, and I think I'm slowly starting to pick up on it. So I appreciate that. All right, we're 2 for 1. Let's see if we can keep it going. If I get a positive win rate out of this, I'll be happy. So what else we got?
All right.
That's it. I win. Unless they still have one guard there, and even then, it's not gonna matter. Incredible what a little bit of splashing can do. Literally, we splashed in some water demons.
Okay. So now we have this card here.
Okay, this is a Frontline Scout. This is another red, so it has a pitch of 1. It has a cost of 0. You may look at the defending hero's hand, and if Frontline Scout is played from Arsenal, it gains Go Again. It has 3 attack. This is a generic action for an attack, and has a block of 2. So what do we need to know about this?
I mean, it's pretty face up there. The Go Again is conditional. That's something to look at. You do have to put it in your arsenal first. So kind of like a trap, although you could send it at the end of your turn if you really want to.
Okay.
Something else I'll just quickly mention. Most of these cards are going to be the red versions I show you, because usually the most powerful effect on cards will be on red since they pitch the least. Blues have abilities, and there is a blue card here, but they're typically your resource base, right? They have lesser effects. You'll play them if you need to, but usually you pitch them and play your reds.
Sure. sure. I think that's something that we can also highlight for people as well, is that this Frontline Scout has 3 different versions. There's a red, yellow, and a blue. And I think we've sort of like omitted that up until this point. So you can have the same card that'll have a different pitch value because yellow's pitch for 2, blue's pitch for 3, but then they have other, you know, modifying stats depending on, you know, what their color is, right? So there are,
so
like you were saying, there are multiple colors or versions rather of the same card that has different value depending on what you're trying to build your deck around.
Yeah, some cards only have one color, like Cash In. A lot of Majestics, they only have the one color, but commons and rares, they'll usually come in a rainbow suite. So Frontline Scout, the yellow only attacks for 2, and the blue only attacks for 1, which, like, you probably can guess at that point, like, only attacking for 1's not usually that good, so you'd only really want, you know, one of the 2 or one of the 3 versions.
This one's tough because hand knowledge in Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically is very taboo for the most part. People have played some of the worst cards imaginable just to have hand knowledge, and those cards usually all get banned. Oh, I know you do. That's why you picked this card, probably.
That's exactly why I picked it.
Yeah, so now the question is, how good is it in Flesh and Blood? And it's really interesting because I see this from 2 lenses. Flesh and Blood, obviously, up until now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, has really sort of positioned itself as like the most like skillful, competitive, hardcore game that's on the market, right? A lot of people have defected from all the games to play Flesh and Blood because that's how it sort of advertises and brands itself. At the same time, the fact that in this game specifically, that you're always drawing a new hand of cards, it's interesting because, like, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, where card draw might be more limited, or we have so many tutors that, like, show you what the cards are going to be going to the hand anyway, and not to mention that there's, like, multiple turns over the course that games play out, you get this glimpse into your opponent's hand for 1 turn, but then if they're going to just dump that whole hand anyway and draw another hand on the next turn, sure, this might be good for, like, this one specific combat, but, like, over the course of the game, that may not, like, it could make a difference, but, like, on average, is it going to be, like, a difference maker enough? And then I go back to the fact that this is, like, a game for, like, really hardcore competitive people. At the same time, you know, having that hand knowledge and you know, hand knowledge usually kind of goes
Wheatgrass is sort of the opposite, I suppose. From what I've heard,
player, right?
most of the Wheatgrass community is hyper casual.
Hand knowledge is exceptionally powerful, but if a player is not as good at the game, I feel like the hand knowledge is
and there is enough in the game that I hate that make me not want that make me glad it isn't hyper competitive.
Really see their one hand, and so like winning that one combat could be really important, just depending on the circumstances. And obviously you can play multiple copies of this, so you could see multiple hands over the course of a game. Oh, this one's tough. This one's really tough. I want to say it's good. So I'll go with that.
All right. So hand knowledge is good in this game, but not so much that it makes this card worth playing. This card doesn't see play at all.
Oof!
Because having to put it in your arsenal first to get the go again, and it only attacks for 3, there's no breakpoint there. It's just not worth the effect because, like you said, you're constantly recycling your hand, you know? And it is useful. You can see if they have reactions or what they're going to do. There's certain classes that, like assassins, that are heavy on disruption. They have a lot of effects that will, like, rip cards out of your hand or give you tokens that make your attacks weaker. So seeing what they're doing is good, but yeah, Frontline Scout just, it's too slow, almost like traps in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just not a good enough effect to put in your arsenal.
Is there a hand revealing or hand knowledge card that is good enough? Or is this like the best and it's still not good enough?
Yeah, there's a card, like there's a couple of them. One that comes to mind is Sound the Alarm. It's a 1 for 5, which is a pretty good rate, blocks 3. And when you attack the opponent, you reveal they reveal their hand, and if they have an attack reaction, you get to go search your deck for a defense reaction and put it on top. So as your turn ends, it doesn't have go again, but there's classes where 1 for 5 is when they pitch a blue, they go, there's like ninjas. They send a weapon for 1, another weapon for like 2 in case of the hero Ira, because she gives her second attack a boost. And then you can send the Sound the Alarm at the end, get good damage in, see their hand, you get to put a defense reaction on top to stop whatever they're going to do. So a card like that's pretty good, but Frontline Scout is not played at all.
Got it. Okay. Well, we're 2 for 2. What do we got next?
I think you're doing pretty good, to be honest. I picked a few cards to trip you up, like this one here. This is the blue that I was saying.
Okay, this is Amulet of Echo. So again, noticeably, the blue means it pitches for 3, costs 0. Has go again, no condition. This is a generic action item. Haven't seen one of these yet. And it has instant. Destroy Amulet of Echoes. Target hero discards 2 cards. Activate this ability only if they have played 2 or more cards with the same name this turn. Interesting. So how common is it for players to play 2 or more cards of the same name in the same turn?
I feel like that's
been
giving
pretty
away.
awkward
Oh, okay,
so far.
okay, it's fine. I'm trying. Okay, I guess I was trying too
But
hard to get information out. But I guess to be fair, okay, let me ask this question. Since each copy of a card has a blue, a yellow, and a red version, how many copies like of those collectively are allowed to have in your deck?
You can have up to 9 of a single card. And there are decks that there's like a crutch card that they need, you know, all 9 copies. Typically, though, if it's a really good card, you'll see the reds and the blues for most.
Got it. Okay, so hypothetically,
Like 6
for people
copies.
watching, like you could have 3 Amulet of Echoes that are blue, 3 Amulet of Echoes that are yellow, and 3 that are red, just for understanding, right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
sorry, I guess one thing I should say, I kind of forgot. We were supposed to be talking about Sage. I'm so used to talking about Class. So there's 2 formats. Classic Constructed is the 60 card decks, 3 copies. Sage, it's only 2, but they're 40 card decks, so it balances out by just removing the 20.
Right, and you're still at that point allowed to play 6 copies of a card then, correct?
Yes, 6
Right.
copies of a card, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so when you look at it that way, because it's weird to say you're allowed to play 9 copies of a card for anyone who plays a card game, right? So that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But when we put it through that lens, then it's like, okay, it's not unreasonable to think that someone could play multiple copies of the same card. That only counts for if they play the card, right? That doesn't count for pitching, I would imagine.
Yeah, just if they've played it.
Right, okay. So that's an important distinction as well. Target hero discards 2 cards. Okay, so now we're getting back into like hand destruction and hand knowledge stuff with Yu-Gi-Oh! And obviously in Yu-Gi-Oh! Delinquent Duo is crazy and is banned and is probably never going to come back into the game. And that's what this card immediately reminds me of, which is probably why you picked it. So, how good is that in this game? You said that there's only a hand of like roughly 4 cards, barring any like draw cards or anything like that. So, essentially what would have to happen is they'd have to have something that's a combination of go-agains, pitching, and then playing cards of the same name, and then still have cards left over to want them to discard. Unless there's like a synergy where you're trying to discard cards yourself, but that's not like unreasonable to think. So like maybe that's like the gimmick here is like you don't care about discarding your opponent's stuff, like you're trying to discard your own stuff. Ooh, boy. This is tough. This is tough. Because like I'm just thinking your opponent's just going to naturally deplete the cards out of their hand anyway. I guess, like, in a world where they do play multiple of the same card, you Amulet of Echoes and then force them to discard the cards, and then they have nothing left, so you kind of, like, cut them off at the knees a bit, is, like, the way I'm seeing this working out. Wow. That is... They probably know about this card, right? Because it's an item.
Yeah, so it goes onto the field and sits there until you activate it.
Right. So it's not like they're unaware that this card exists, which makes it a lot worse, actually. Oh, but now I'm getting to the mind games of, like, is that why you picked it? Because I'm going to think it's bad and it's actually good. I hate this. All right, I'm gonna say it's.
You're the only one who
only
plays
if
the
they-
meta games so
Sorry,
frequently in
target
that way.
heroes activate this ability only if they have played. You can technically trigger this yourself as well. I guess I'm looking at this from the opponent's
yeah.
perspective. Yeah. The way it was worded, it kind of seems like it's like just the opponent, but no, you could technically do this yourself. So, okay, through the lens of yourself, that means you now have the agency to activate multiple copies with the same name. And then you could force your opponent to discard 2 cards, which then means that they're left with way less to do on their turn.
No. So this, you would, if you target yourself, you would discard.
Oh, you're the one discard. Okay, you
Yeah.
okay.
Whichever hero is the one playing them, that's the one who has to discard.
Yeah, that might be a bit too good in retrospect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's not good.
This card is a niche but decently powerful sideboard piece into like one specific hero. I figured I'd get you with the discard. There's a hero called, well, it's actually going to be multiple. There's a lightning card called Gone in a Flash, and it is a 0/4 that if you play an instant on the same chain link, so after you attack with it, it returns to your hand. And there's a boot, it's called Lightning Greaves, and it's an equipment piece, and you can pop it, and during your turn, your instants all get go again. So if you have a handful of instants and a Gone in a Flash, you can send it, play an instant, return it. It now has go again. Play it, play another instant, return it to hand, and you can just combo off and deal 25, 30 damage on some really big turns.
Oh, wow.
So this card into right now the hero that uses it is a lightning wizard called Auxilio. He's like this big sentinel sigil guy, and he this card is specifically right now in people play it against him for that combo turn. But
Got it.
aside from that, and like there's ninjas get these they're tokens that are attacks that attack for 0, but you can pump them, called Crouching Tigers. So there are a couple decks that sometimes send multiple tigers, but that's not as prevalent and nobody's really using them right now.
Sure.
So you're mostly correct. It's most things it's not very good, but into the couple niche heroes or circumstances, it's actually quite a potent card because you put it on the field and now they have to play around it.
Right, so it's like a side deck / like teching for a particular matchup type of card. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take my 4/5 of a point for that one.
Yeah, I think you get it because it's not like a super powerful card. You analyzed it right. Obviously, you don't know about some really niche card in this game.
Well, that's what makes this fun.
You don't know about every card in the game. Yeah,
Of course.
All right, so now we're gonna give you something interesting that's following all of what we've talked about.
I mean, these have all been interesting, and I'm positive win rate so far. So, all right,
Yeah, it's another attack.
We got Snatch. It is a red version, so obviously it's going to pitch for 1, has a cost of 0. If Snatch hits, draw a card. It has an attack value of 4, and it has a generic action that is an attack, and it defends for 2. So we already discussed that 0 for 4 is a very good rate. Now, let's talk about like when it's considered something hitting, because there is like the combat chain in this game. And we sort of went into this before. So why don't you go ahead and elaborate this a little bit further?
Yep. So this card does come in all 3 colors, so that's just something to think about.
Sure.
If you want to add that into your analysis, but this is obviously like if I'm going to show reason I show the reds is because most attacks you want to send the reds because they attack for the most. So the hitting in this, so there's 2 types of hitting. There's hits a hero specifically, so if you deal damage to the hero themselves, but there are things in this game, allies, so you have like angel allies, or there's dragons for illusionist. You've got necromancer has their allies that they bring back from the grave, so there's if you hit them as well, because this just says if it hits you will also draw a card off of that. So as long as you deal something damage, that's considered hitting.
Sure. And I think that's an important distinction to make, just because it's like, because if it doesn't deal damage, then it wouldn't technically count, right? Okay, if it hits, draw a card. That's pretty good because the possibility to like stack multiple of these would be pretty decent, especially if like you're going to be able to get in. May not necessarily always be the case, but maybe you have a good grasp on things. It is just cycling for another card. It doesn't have go again. The rate is pretty decent. Man, I feel like if this had go again, this would probably be too good.
Oh, it'd be banned.
Ooh, but without go again, is it still good enough just for a cycle? This one's tough. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say it's not good enough.
Oh, this is a very, very, very good attack.
Okay.
So,
I'll be wrong.
as I was saying earlier, so the 0 for 4, that creates a break point where if the opponent wants to stop, they have to give you 2 cards.
2 cards.
There are a reasonable amount of ways in this game to give. Now, not every deck runs it, I'll say that, but any deck that can use it, it can give it go again. Like, for instance, there's a common leg equipment called Snapdragon Scalers, and it's just destroy them to give any 0 or 1 cost attack go again. So you can just give Snatch go again. Now that leg equipment is actually banned in Silver Age because of things like this. It'd be a little too strong. Because Silver Age, keep in mind, doesn't have Sink Below, which is a very good card. It blocks for 4, it helps you block the Snatch. But there's enough decks that can just send it in the middle of a chain with go again. Now, okay, if you're the defender, like your opponent sending it at you, you got to be like, okay, well now I want to block it because if they get another card, they can keep going. There's certain heroes that can send long chains of like 4, 5, 6 cards, depending on if they can draw extra cards with Snatch or any other effects. So yeah, this card's actually extremely good, being able to draw off allies. But the other thing is that arsenal slot. So if you send it at the end of your turn, even without go again, if you draw a card, you can put it in your arsenal and have it for your next turn, giving you what we call... it's what we call a 5-card hand, because now you have your 4 plus
the arsenal. Right, exactly. Yeah, that was tough because like I didn't consider the fact that like you could give something go again, and so then the fact that you have like another additional action after that, like I said, like if it has go again, I'm like, oh, I'm sold on this, and so I didn't consider like being able to give it go again. So I think that's what tripped me up there, but that's okay. That's okay. That's the fun of this. So
yeah, and like I said, even without, it's still really good because you get that extra arsenal, and it's very annoying.
Right. The 5-card hand, all powerful. All right, I think I'm even here, so I gotta come back ahead here. What do you got? I feel like they're only gonna get harder.
All right.
We only got a few left.
It's another attack.
Humble. Oh, I'm gonna be humble after this. Again, it's another red, so it pitches for 1. This one costs 2, notably, but it hits for 6. This is another generic attack action. When this hits a hero, that hero loses all abilities until the end of their next turn. Treat the hero card as if the text box is empty. I like the little reminder text on that. That's funny. Interesting. It's also interesting until the end of the next turn as well. So
when you attack, it's your turn, so it shuts off their ability for their turn.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. We see some effects like that in games every now and then, but it's always good when it's like the next turn. Being able to shut off their text box. That could be pretty devastating because obviously the hero is like the centerpiece of whatever your strategy is, I would imagine. It is only a temporary delay, but obviously it's 1 attack, so that makes sense. This one does cost 2, but it does hit for 6 as well. I'm not sure. We've only been talking about breakpoints and rates for stuff that costs 0 and for 4. So I'm not sure if like 2 for 6 is like good. I mean, if we're going based off of that, like maybe it would have to be stronger, but maybe the trade-off is because you have this ability, it attacks for less, potentially. So I'll be curious to hear the breakpoints when you give me the little spiel, because I know you're already sitting there waiting to get me on this one. I feel like making it that they lose all their abilities would just be so strong. It is only for a turn, but like if the whole deck like centralizes around the hero, I feel like that could be pretty important. But the fact that this costs so much could be like the detriment to it. Based off the fact that this is like a hero TCG in a sense, where like you're picking a hero that represents you, like it's your avatar in terms of like what you're doing in the game. I'm going to assume that obviously the hero cards are going to be very pivotal into the way that the game works. And so I'm going to say that this card is good.
You are correct.
Yes!
Yes, you got it. Yeah, so this card it's usually a sideboard card because, like, for instance, there's a mechanologist hero called Dash, and her ability is you get to start the game with I think it's a 2 or less cost item in your deck on the field. So that just happens before the game starts, and so obviously Humble's useless into her, right? In this game, to I guess, like, something important to note too is attacking your opponent is always good because you're trying to kill them, right? And if they don't want to take the damage, it attacks for 6, so they have to give you 2 cards in order to stop it. Now, it is a clean block, so, it's not as good, but there's also a lot of decks that just 2 for 6 is a good rate. If something costs 1, has go again, then you can send this after you've pitched a blue. There's a class called Brutes that really revolve around discarding big attacks. So if you want a lot of 6 cost attacks in your deck, so when you do these discards, you actually get your abilities. So Humble, it is a sideboard card, but into some heroes, shutting off their ability, even for a turn, can almost win you the game right there. Or most often what happens is you play it and they go, okay, my next turn, I'm going to have to block this. Now I have less cards on my turn. Because keep in mind, if you block, then like with 2 cards, you only have 2 cards out of your 4 left in your hand for your own turn. Right,
exactly. So is 2 for 6 like an average rate for a 2-cost card? Okay, good to know. I wasn't sure if it was like 2 for 8 and this was like a bit lower because of the trade-off of the ability, but okay.
No,
so
there's like 1 2 for 8 that's a very powerful card, and it's a brute card, so they get to be the class, the big Unga Bunga class.
Yeah, Unga Bunga, yeah, exactly. All right, we're still up. We're still up. Only a few left though, so I gotta.
So I'm
4 for 3. I need to at least get 6 right to come out ahead, so I need 2 more.
I think you might. So here's this one. I decided to change the order because I think this follows Humble much better.
Ooh, okay. Let's see what we got. We have Pummel, Humble, and Pummel. Funny. Again, it's red, pitches for 1, costs 2. Doesn't have any value here for an attack reaction, which is interesting. Does defend for 2, though. Choose 1. Either target club or hammer weapon attack gains +4 attack. Okay, this makes sense why there's no value necessarily. Or target attack action card with cost 2 or greater gains +4 attack. And if this hits a hero, they discard a card. Okay, so obviously being a club or a hammer, you can go into this if you wish to. Obviously, the heroes get to have their own weapons, if you want to go into some detail there.
Yeah, so it's usually Guardians and Brutes are the two classes that have hammers and what is it? Yeah, clubs. So it's the Anathos is a two-handed weapon that if you pitch, I think it's a six or more, like six or higher power card to it, then it swings for six. So if you've like pitched two blues for that, or I think it's one blue, and then you send in the pummel afterwards, you can pump it by 4. Because keep in mind, this is a attack reaction, so this goes after your opponent's chosen their blockers, and if they don't have a defense reaction, they're not allowed to add any more cards to the combat chain. So this is a way to get up and over their attacks.
Now, this is interesting because we just said that 2 for 6 is like a pretty good rate, but this is 2 for 4, but there's a couple asterisks here, right? Because while it is only 2 for 4, obviously the second ability means that it can make it then discard a card, but also because this is a reaction, you're able to do this after you already do the general action, which then means that, like you said, if they don't have a way to really defend this because they don't have a defense reaction, then you're going to like guarantee that you're going to get through. Right. And so it's just it has different utility from my understanding of evaluating the card. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not as much damage, but because you get to add it to something and it's at like a almost instant speed essentially.
Right.
It's like you said during damage calc.
Right. Exactly. It's like the classic damage step for any type of effect. So. How good is that, though, is the question. At minimum, it's going to be just added 4 on top of it in the damage step. So that's just like, you're like rush recklessly or anything like that for all the boomers out there. Or you can make it that because it's strong enough that they also are forced to discard as well. That's tough. We've already talked about discarding a little bit. Again, I feel like it's so strange in this game just because you're able to just like draw a whole hand again. So it's like, yeah, for a particular combat, it could be beneficial. But unless that combat's like really what the game is hinging on, I want to say I'm torn. I don't think like the discard thing is like, I think fine. I think it's like, is this like because like our game has obviously had its fair share of like combat tricks that are like good. That you can use at like, in like the damage step, right? And so there have been times where they're good, but like generally they're not. Obviously, this game works so differently. So it's like I'm having to like rewire my brain on a different axis here. I'm going to say it's not good enough.
Ooh, this card is very good.
Is it? Okay.
It's
Teach
okay.
me.
So in Silver Age, the reason it's really good is because a lot of Sink Below, for instance, 0 for 4 defense reaction. That if you block the attack and then they try to use a pummel, you can block it. I will say about pummel, the club and hammer thing, unless it's like you've got the win and it's like very late game and you're like, oh, this is the way I can get the last couple points of damage, 99.9% of the time you're using it on an attack. Because so let's say first for Sage, Sink Below, there's another defense reaction that's a 0 for 4 as well called Fate Foreseen, and it just lets you I don't even know if there's an ability in Yu-Gi-Oh! It lets you look at the top card of your deck and choose to keep it there or put it to the bottom.
There's
That's
a few
called opting in this game.
There's a
It's
few.
like scrying in Magic.
Sure.
It's the
Sure.
same ability, but those are both banned in Silver Age. So Pummel becomes very strong because again, it's a reaction. So if I play a Humble and you block with 2 cards, or you block with a card, maybe some equipment, and then I play a Pummel, if you don't have a defense reaction, it's going to hit you, your hero abilities are shut off, and you discard a card.
Right. I see. So it's stacking it on top of the Humble just like allows that to push through. I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then in Classic Instructed, I'm sure you probably know the card Fiendel Spring Tunic. It's one of like Flesh and Bloods. Yeah, so every turn you get an energy counter. And once it hits 3 instant speed, you can remove a counter, get a resource. Well, if you pitch a blue and you send a 2 for 6, you have 1 floating. When they after they block, you can use the Tunic counter and your remaining resource to then play the Pummel. So you just need 2 cards
cute.
and the Pummel. So 3 card, it's 3 card, usually 10, and they discard any. There's a lot of 2 for 6s with on hits that disrupt the opponent. So like Humble, there's a couple others, and so it's just a very reliable way to get people.
Gotcha. Okay. No, it makes sense, especially when you combine it with Humble. I think I was not necessarily looking at the other ways you could possibly just like layer it on top. And now I see why you followed Humble with Pummel. It makes perfect sense. So 4 for 4. I got to get the next 2 right to come out ahead. Let's see if we can do it.
All right. Here is this one. You know what? I'm actually going to add all the colors, if that's all right by you.
That's fine by me.
Because I think they matter here.
Okay. That's my editor's job. So have fun.
Perfect.
All right, we got Sift. We're going to see all 3 versions of it. So we have the red version, which again just pitches for red and costs 0. Put up to 4 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, then draw that many cards and go again. This also is a generic action that defends for 3. We're going to see the blue Sift here, which is a pitches for 3, costs 0. Put up to 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, then draw that many cards. Once again, it has go again. And then we have the yellow one, which is the same thing. Pitches for 2 because it's a yellow, costs 0. But this is put up to 3 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, then draw that many cards. So are we playing a different game here? What are we looking at?
Like how the ability works?
Oh, I meant like, are we playing a different game as in, or am I trying to figure out like which one's the good one, or are they all good, or
Sorry, I just guess, like, because obviously with an ability like this, if you're gonna filter your hand, the red filters the most, but the blue is so I guess another thing to explain. Sorry, this is also important. Blues that block 3 are very good because you want, like, if it only blocks 2 and they attack you for 3, for instance, you need an extra card.
Sure.
So blue block 3 is like just your baseline, like, good card, but obviously, you know, the reds, like I said, have the most powerful ability. So the reason I gave you all 3 is, like, if people are going to play it, they might actually play, you know, the reds or the blues depending on what they want to do.
Gotcha. I thought we were playing a different game now where it's like, oh, here's 3 of the same card, which obviously it is the case with this game. Pick which one is like the best of the 3 type of thing. I thought we were changing the game up here, but okay. No, that's totally fine. So I'm still evaluating.
That comes after these.
Oh, that's after. Oh, I guess I got
Yeah, it's going to be 3 different cards that are not like just different colors. Like,
so we're ending on a high note then. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So when it comes to Sift, I wish this card existed in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to go ahead and say that, because if I could basically just mulligan my hand, that would be incredible. But unfortunately, we are not allowed to do that. It's interesting because, like, I like seeing how just across, like, the red, yellow, blue, like how it scales, right? Because obviously, like you said, red's the most powerful, but it gives you the least amount of resources, and blue's the opposite, and yellow just kind of sits in the middle. So just depending on what you want to do, it lets you just have the option. Has go again, which is important, I feel like, for a card like this. Being able to cycle away the hand to get something else entirely. I want to say that this would be really good. Because, I mean, like, being able to just look at a fresh new hand, that seems insane to me. Especially if you're, like, not happy with it. This is very reminiscent of, like, card destruction in our game. How is this card bad, I guess, is the question. How is bottoming cards in your hand and drawing the same amount of cards bad? It still lets you go again.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you can put it in your arsenal.
Right, I was thinking that too. So hypothetically, that's how you get the full 4, right? So if you arsenal it, then you're able to then get the whole hand. It's up to, you don't have to do the whole hand. How is this bad? That's the trick here that I feel like you're having me figure this puzzle out. Like, how is this card bad in any circumstance? I feel like it's just good. Like, it costs 0 too. Like, this has to be bait, right? This has to be bait. Like, there's no way you'd show me this and be like, I'm trying to think, like, what game would this be bad in at all? But, like, maybe it is bad in Flesh. Like, I don't know. Wow, this is tough.
I thought that was the point. You're not supposed to know.
I'm not. And this, obviously, you can tell I'm being sincere about it because I'm really torn on this one. God.
How does it feel being in that position?
It sucks. I hate it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like it. Oh, man. I'm like the guy in the art right now. Like, I feel like I'm making the exact same pose he is. There's no way this is bad, right? Like, how? How is this bad? How is this bad? Okay, I'm saying it's good. I'll be wrong. Like, it has to be good. It has to be. There's no way.
So, Sift is not a terrible card, but it's not that played either.
Really?
There have been a couple, like, it's not really a meta card. There's been a couple decks, like, there's a Guardian named Valda, where she's got, like, a chess piece and a hero ability that, like, when she draws cards and your opponent draws cards, she'll get, you know, tokens and that from it. But aside from that, with, like, the blues, and some people have, like, dabbled, there's been heroes that care a lot about blues, so there's people who have dabbled in playing the blue. But for the most part, the thing about Fab is that you're constantly drawing up to your hands, so the value you can extract out of each hand is really important. And even though you can fix your hand with this, you can also, if you draw a bad hand, most of the time, you could also just block with it and then draw back up and try again.
Oh, I see.
So unless there are, like, some combo decks that maybe run it, you know, like there are some wizards that want to line things up, but more often than not, because you're constantly recycling your hand, an ability like this, like, you're just kind of saving a card now to maybe filter your hand for some something better next turn. But again, because the constant churn, turn after turn, it's not the most useful in this game.
Yeah, I get that makes sense, especially because like in my mind I'm still thinking though, like even though you cycle your hand so frequently, it's like it's another way to cycle your hand, but like you get to do it like without having to wait a turn, right? Because that one turn could make a difference in my mind, but maybe I'm just overestimating the value of that.
Yeah, there's a couple heroes, like there was a wizard named Kano who's gone now, and there was a point where he deals like multiplicative arcane damage, which is actually the last card here that we'll get to is arcane, so I'll explain some of that in a minute.
Oh boy.
But he could just like amplify the damage to like there were people where they'd be dealing like 100 damage, in a single turn.
Really?
Like,
That's
deal
insane.
this. Well, there's cards that like when they deal arcane, they then pump the next one by that much, and then there's a card that's like however much you've dealt this turn, it like amplifies it by that much as well, so it gets the pumps from the other cards and its own, and it scales, into crazy turns. But even then, what they'll usually try to do is like just block with the cards to dig through their deck. A card like Sif, the thing is, I think it's fair to kind of give you a point for this because it's not a terrible card, and I could see there one day being heroes that care more about digging for cards. But right now it's like very niche.
Got it. Okay. I'll put it all on the last pick here, just to make it more interesting and fun for the game's purpose. So last one. What do we got?
Last one. Let me see. Which one was? Yes. Now I got a lot of explaining to do.
Oh boy.
So while I send this to you, I will then explain Arcane to you, and after you're done reading it.
Okay, so this is Snapback. Once again, it's red, so it pitches for 1. This one costs 1, though, notably. It says, deal 3 arcane damage to target hero. If you've played another wizard non-attack action card this turn, you may play Snapback as though it were an instant. And this is a wizard action that blocks for 3.
Okay, so the thing to explain here is Arcane. So I'm going to send you No Rune Hood here. So the ability Arcane Barrier, there are a couple items that can use it, but normally it's on equipment. No Rune is like the base stuff you can run. Now, the thing is, with Arcane, Snapback deals 3. So you actually need to have 3 Arcane Barrier in order to be able to pitch 3 to it to block it. If you have just 1 Arcane Barrier, you can only block 1 of the Arcane.
And you'll take 2 in that instance.
Yes, and keep in mind, you have to swap out your equipment, so whatever equipment you are running to function with your deck and help with your abilities is now gone in order to block this arcane damage, so that also factors into it.
Okay, so the No Rune Hood says Arcane Barrier 1. If your hero would be dealt arcane damage, you may pay 1 instead. If you do prevent 1 arcane damage, that source would deal. So that basically just sort of wraps up everything you said in a nice little bow. So arcane damage is like this special type of damage that requires a special type of protection in order to nullify it. This says if you played another wizard non-attack action card this turn, you can play it as though it were an instant. You were going to say something?
Played another...
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say... so if you played another wizard non-attack, Snapback can go in at instant speed, so adding in 3 damage, that's harder to block. Another thing to keep in mind is Arcane Barrier has to be pitched too. You don't just get to block with your cards normally, so reds only pay for 1. So it kind of, you also, not only do you need the Arcane Barrier, but you need blues to block multiple bits of damage. Otherwise, you're going to have to pitch, 3 red.
And so it's still a 1-for-1 damage exchange, though, right? It's like if I deal 3 arcane damage, it's still like dealing 3 damage. It's just harder to stop that arcane damage, correct? Got it. Okay. So that could be potentially oppressive and problematic because if there's a world that you could like stack this damage or like multiply it, or there's like other types of interactions, then if your opponent doesn't have like arcane barriers, then you just like get through essentially with like a sort of like unblockable type damage, if you will. I guess my question is, how common are like arcane barriers versus things that deal arcane damage, if I'm allowed to know that?
Arcane Barrier is usually in everybody's sideboard. Sometimes, depending on the meta, if there's not many wizards, you might run... So there's another class called Rune Blades, and they typically make what are known as Rune Chants. There's just a little token, and when you attack, each one also goes at the opponent, and each one deals 1 damage. But because they're each only 1, you only need 1 Arcane Barrier. So for Rune Blades, you'd usually run 1, but for wizards, a lot of people run, try to average 2 to 3 so they can block these bigger chunks.
Are wizards the only ones that have the arcane damage?
Rune Blades do too.
Oh, Rune Blades do too. Yeah, you did say that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, in Silver Age, how much health are we dealing with here?
You have 20 health.
Okay, 20 health, and if you have this sort of like unavoidable or like difficult to avoid damage, I have a question. Is with wizards and rune blades, do they only typically deal damage in arcane damage, or is it just like an extra thing that they do?
So for rune blades, they're a mix. They are, they use attack actions as well as, weapons, and they deal arcane. They're basically like sword and magic.
Okay.
And then wizards are almost always, there's a wizards that also attack, but mostly it's arcane damage.
Interesting. Okay, so like that is like an exclusive. I don't want to say exclusive, but like for wizards specifically, it's like their primary damage is arcane damage. Okay.
Yeah, they'll use attacks to keep up pressure on the opponent, but a lot of the ways that they get those, final bits of damage are usually through arcane. That's more than what the opponent can
That's
get.
what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking of this as like a finisher almost, where it's like, okay, I have them whittled down, and now I'm going to use arcane damage in the form of whether it's snapback specifically or like another type of card where it's like, this is how I'm going to kill you because you are at like the danger threshold, right? And so as a result of that, I want to say this card's probably good. Because that seems pretty good. And especially if, like you're saying, everyone's having like something in the sideboard for it, that seems like it would be a problem. So I want to say Snapback's good.
Is that your final answer?
Final answer?
Everything rides on this card?
Question mark?
All right.
Please?
You're correct.
Woo! We did it!
Snapback. So this card has always been like quite good. You're correct on the fact that it's a finisher because if you played something else. So there's a couple wizards that most of the time they have a lot of instants, but there's a hero called Kano who's the one that does multiplicative damage, and he can play cards at instant speed. So like by banishing them from the deck, and so you can do that on the opponent's turn, and if you've got this in hand or if you hit it, you can just, here's the last 3 damage. And another hero called Icelander who can play blues out of her arsenal. So she wants to arsenal them on the opponent's turn, send in damage, because keep in mind, when you send it at instant speed, if your opponent's already like attacked a couple times and pitched all their cards and has nothing left, they just can't block the damage.
Right.
So this
Exactly.
just goes through. And yeah, when you only have 20 health, like it's almost like a lightning bolt in Magic where you can just kill them if they're low enough.
Yeah,
So this
exactly.
card
and
is
unblockable
quite good.
lightning bolt at that, in some instances
Yes.
too. So.
Yes. Now, if they still have resources, they can block some of
Sure,
it. But yeah,
sure.
this card is a really good finisher. Arcane is very powerful because of how difficult it is to block. And any class that can do split is going to be very good because it's just really annoying when you have to block normal and arcane.
Yeah, it's cool having this like alternate source of damage that like operates on a different axis too, right? Just like from like a game design perspective, like I would think that's really cool. So, well, that's it. I ended up getting out ahead at the very end, and so it looks like I was victorious. But I really
We got a
appreciate
bonus